Welcome to the Behind the Art Inspiration podcast, organic style, because I'm just meeting up with Ruth Christensen, who I was just on her sailboat, the Fox Hat. You can see the little fox in the background. And we're getting together. We're actually going to be doing a series of podcasts. I think this is number 3. Actually, it's number 4 that we've done together because you interviewed me once, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And so, what we're talking about today are our adventures in Montenegro. And some of you might know that I was traveling quite a bit this summer, traveling and painting and meeting up with different artists. And first of all, I'd like to welcome Ruth to the podcast. And Ruth, where are you right now? Like right now?
I am in Marina in Croatia, northern Croatia, on the eastern side of the Adriatic Sea.
And just recently in August, when I was with you on the sailboat, we were in Montenegro and we could see Croatia, but the bottom of Croatia. Tell me, because
Yes,
I don't know, the geography of it all fascinates me. And then we're going to get to our collaboration that we did. But I just want to hear a little bit about your adventure right now and where you're headed and why. And it's the end of your summer, correct?
it is. Sadly, it's coming to the end of my sailing summer. Every year we sail our lovely boat somewhere for 4 months, and so I've been aboard since the end of May. And this year we started in Montenegro, and we've sailed all the way around Montenegro, where you came aboard, and then we've sailed all the way up Croatia, and then we will sail into, just next week we'll sail into Slovenia, and our journey this year will conclude in Trieste, in the easternmost part of Italy.
And then you'll jump in your car, which has artwork in it, and we'll get back
And
to that.
then
You'll jump in your car.
and we will drive through Italy, through southern France, and up through, not exactly sure, up through France, through Paris. And then we'll take either the train or the ferry, not sure which, back to the UK, back to Dorset, where we live.
Okay, and so we're
A
gonna,
lot of traveling, a
yeah.
lot of miles.
So the whole point that I wanted to meet about this podcast is the traveling artist, because the painting happens in a different way than it might if you're in your studio. And one way to go are like the small canvases you have behind you of the jellies, right?
Yeah.
So that's easy, it's portable, it's convenient. But what if you want to paint large, like I like to do, and I know that you like to do? And I know that when I showed up on the scene in Montenegro, there was a little bit of kind of figuring out what, how exactly. I already had my canvas with me because I had been in Egypt and in Italy, and I had already been painting. And you did have an idea because you gathered. Tell us about the sales that you gathered in prep.
Right. So I had an idea. I love sailing. Obviously, I sail every summer. I've been sailing since I was this size. Since before I was this size, actually, I've been sailing since I was that size.
Yeah.
And so it's in my blood, and I love the sea, and I love to be on a boat. And I had this idea that I could paint on sail canvas. So sail canvas is not like artist canvas. It can be made of many things, but most sails are made of dacron, which is a type of polyester, which is woven to be very smooth, very strong, and almost inert. It doesn't react to anything. It's incredibly strong stuff. The stress is that it's under when you're sailing. So this is the fabric that the sails are made of. It's incredibly strong. So I had the idea of using old sail fabric. And how was I going to do that? How was I going to get the fabric? How, so many questions in my head. So, and then what am I going to use? What am I going to paint with on it? How is this going to work? So, well, the only way to find that out was to try it. So it so happened that I knew some people at the time who had some old sails, and I said, could I maybe have some old sail canvas? Oh yeah, sure. How much do you want? And I said, well, how much can you give me? So I walked away with this huge piece of sail canvas, and very excited to start this new project. And what was I going to use to paint on it, and how, where was I going to find the space, were the
So
next question.
it was a bit of a block. When I came aboard, I came in on the pondering of how are we going to do this? And I was like, we're just going to do it. And I don't know how, and then one of us came up with the hardware store, right?
So I'd been Googling on how to get stuff to adhere to this incredibly shiny Dacron, because one of the reasons it's developed the way it is that nothing sticks to it. It's easy to clean, and it's going to stay white or whatever color, because you don't want your sails to be looking awful, and you don't want stuff to stick to it. You want to be able to wash it, you want to be able to scrub it. And it's got a slightly not shiny but very smooth, kind of impervious surface. So I was a bit concerned that nothing would stick to it. So I did a bit of Googling, and it seemed that it needed to be something obviously pliable, because you can bend it and twist it. But it needed to, stick. So we came up with well, I thought maybe I'm looking for latex, or maybe acrylic would work, but acrylic might not stick. And anyway,
so we journeyed to the local
huge.
hardware store that everything was in Serbian.
Oh, yes. And I'm walking around with my phone translating, because Google translates incredible in situations like that. It's so cool. Reading the labels on the cans, and we realized that we couldn't use like house paint, because that's just not going to work. And I remember meeting a very helpful gentleman who mansplained that the stuff we were looking at was simply not going to work, and it was only for concrete walls. But what we had found was an acrylic medium, almost like a pouring medium, the way you do with like pouring acrylics. So it was almost like that, but it was designed for building on stone, for painting on stonework. So and then we found the toners, which are colors which you add to paint to tint them any color that you want.
So
And
vibrant.
Since we'd found them in these magnificent vibrant colors, I mean, they're obviously designed to make like pastel colors. You mix it with white or something like that, and makes these pastely colors. Well, we didn't want pastel, did we? So we had these incredibly vibrant colors, and I wish I had some here, but they've all been shipped off for the end of the summer. Little pots of incredibly bright pigments. So we did a bit of playing, and we added this pigment to this like pouring medium, and it worked. It worked. Suddenly we had made this incredibly vibrant acrylic, like pouring color, and it went on to this Dacron like a dream.
Okay, so that was problem number one solved. So check. So problem number two was, well, we can't put these giant canvases we can't stretch them out on your boat because,
Uh,
and we don't want to have paint anywhere near your boat because it would be we would get the boat crazy. We don't really want to be on the dock at the fabulously luxurious marina because it's spotless, right? So where are we going to find a space where we can both roll out our gigantic canvases to paint? And then a miracle happened. So what happened?
a miracle happened because my dear friend who lives in Montenegro, who I've known for I don't know, 20 something years,
From
um,
Dubai.
from Dubai, yes, where I used to live. And she moved to Montenegro and they built their house, and their house is not quite finished. So they have um roof terraces, big flat roof terraces, which are not covered yet. You know, the tiling's not down, and there's no shade structure. And it was incredibly hot. It was, we're talking, so I don't know what this is in Fahrenheit, but it was maybe like 35 degrees
Yeah.
Celsius. It was
So I'm
like
thinking
that.
that's around 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Incredibly hot. But she said, Ruth, come paint on the terrace. Absolutely no problem. I'd love for you to come. And I said, could I bring my friend? She's like, yes, come. I'd love for you to come and paint on my terrace. Well, I was so excited. So we gathered all our paint supplies from the hardware store. And thankfully, because I had a car, we drove up the hill, and it's halfway up the mountain to the roof terraces, where we were able to stretch out our canvases and paint to our heart's content.
And our view was magnificent.
Oh,
So tell
stunning.
me all the names, because I've been naming these places. I've named them the Boca Bay. I've named them the
Ah,
Bay of Kotar. I've named it the Adriatic Sea just outside of Montenegro. I've said that I could see Croatia. So I might be saying the wrong things, but
no,
tell.
all the things you said already are correct. So we were in Montenegro. We were halfway up the mountain in a little place called Trebinski,
Ah, that one.
which is just above Herceg Novi.
Mm.
And Herceg Novi is right on the bay, which is called the Boca. And the Boca is the mouth. So it's the mouth of Montenegro. Where the Adriatic Sea comes into Montenegro, there's three, it's almost like a clover leaf. There's like three seas in there.
Oh,
Um, yeah, it looks a bit like a clover leaf. And so we were like almost all the way in, actually, in the into the Boca, which is the mouth of the Montenegrin Sea.
now where we slept on the boat, every night we slept on the boat, or when we sailed out and then we went to that really fabulous restaurant, was that another bay?
Yes, so you keep going in, so you're going like north, and you keep going in, and then that's almost as far in as you can go at Katowice Mlini, a magnificent little restaurant that where you moor on a buoy. And you remember we took the
Yeah.
paddle boards and went up the river to the
Yes.
restaurant. Absolutely gorgeous.
And what's the name of that bay?
That's Katowice Mlini. It is Kotor Bay, so you're right, it's
Okay.
Kotor, the Bay of Kotor. But that little area is Katowice Mlini.
Okay. And so that's where Ruth and I collaborated, was actually on that rooftop, right? And we both painted the same thing, but in our own style. So um, similar but different. And I have so much footage of that. I don't know. It'd be a lot of editing to edit it into the podcast. But maybe I'll put them separate. But it was very collaborative, very creative, and we had fresh mint with sparkling water and mulled lemons, and it was really quite
Ice,
nice
a lot of
experience.
ice, because we were painting in bikinis because
Yes,
it was so
we ended up in our bikinis, and did something called the Montenegrin spin, which is we both opened up our canvases and spun around and showed the world our art. I just want to touch really quickly on this because I am going to do a podcast with not only Ruthie but Barbara. She's another artist I collaborated with this summer about canvases. I've seen them called rolled canvas, and I've seen them called unstretched canvas. I have one right here. This one is of the banyan tree in Maui that it's in process, but it's different than a stretched canvas. They tend to be a lot larger. Some galleries show them like this. Some galleries or some collectors want to stretch them themselves, like take them to their best framer. What has been your experience? And we'll just touch very briefly because it's a whole nother podcast. But what's been your experience in selling a rolled canvas? Because right now your canvases are in your car waiting to go back up to your studio in the UK.
You know, I think the beautiful thing about the rolled canvas or sailcloth or whatever it is that it's raw. There's a rawness to it, and then that gives the collector the opportunity to make that in to make it into whatever they want to make it into. So if they want to just hang the raw canvas or the raw sail on their wall just like that, then you can. And there's something beautifully unfinished about that. I love the looseness of it. I mean, especially with the sail canvas.
Yes.
All the creases in that fabric, it's impossible to get rid of. I can't get rid of the creases. But because it's a used sail, the creases are there because of the way the sail was used.
Yes.
And sometimes you get the most beautiful, I mean, creases that you couldn't create any other way. Because whenever you take that sail down or you roll it into the mast, so there's different ways of packing a sail away when you're finished sailing. Whatever way that sail has been used, it creases in certain ways. And for me, that's part of the beauty of it. It's part of the history of that fabric, and it brings its story with it. So, I mean, it goes without saying, I reckon that I'm going to be painting, you know, seascapes and boats and things like that on this incredible fabric that I'm playing with now. So when somebody buys that, they can do whatever they want with it. I'm looking at different ways of finishing the edges so that if they just want to hang it like that, then it'll be like ready to hang. But it could equally be stretched onto a timber, you know, timber stretcher bars, or perhaps aluminium, which is something else that I'm looking into. Easy, lightweight. You wouldn't be able to stretch it like you know, the way you buy a ready stretched canvas in the, you know, in the shop where it's really super smooth. You're not going to get that. But I like that because it's got a texture to it that you can't create in any other way. You wouldn't be able to create those textures on a stretched canvas.
Yeah. So I guess a vision could be the three of us, because Barbara paints in exactly the same way. Having a show or having multiple shows where it's sort of traveling around, and they're easy to pack up. That's the beauty of the rolled canvas, because you
And to
roll it
ship.
up and to ship it, and they are quite lovely, like you said, just hanging in there in that state. I don't have this lighted, but it
Love
just,
those colors.
yeah.
I love that. Absolutely love it.
Thank you. It's really dark right now. Like a lot of the colors aren't showing, but
I like the dark. I like
it's
the
just,
dark.
oh, do you like it dark?
I do.
Well, it is nighttime. It is nighttime, and it is Maui, and it is the banyan tree that survived. And so there's a story about that goes along with this one.
I love it.
Oh, thank you. And so I think that it actually opens the world up for other people as well to receive this kind of postcard that can be sent in a tube literally around the world. And I might have lost Ruth for a minute because she is in her sailboat. And she did tell me that her internet was going in and out. So I'll keep this going while we're waiting for her to come back to the show. And what I was saying, let me make sure she's not trying to reach me because we kind of communicate through WhatsApp. She and her husband, John, are sailing. Oops, I'm by myself now. Maybe she'll come back. Are sailing up the coast and like around the boot of, so they're in Croatia, and Trieste is close to Venice. So they're on that side of the Adriatic. So instead of like being on the boot side, they're actually on the calf side. So they're coming up, and then they'll sail up to where their car is, where they parked it, and then they'll jump in their car and they will travel back. And Ruth and I are going to continue with a couple other collaborations. One big collaboration that is just about to be unveiled is our chain reaction project, which Ruthie headed up, where she gathered 14 of us, and we're already part of the International Online Art Collective. And it was a chain reaction happening around the world because our artists are from 8 or 9 different countries, and we're painting on small canvases to create one large reaction. And I've already done podcasts on that, so you can check those out on my podcast. There's special episodes called the Chain Reaction Project from the IOAC to learn a bit more about that. In fact, Ruth interviewed me about my part of the chain reaction. And anyways, I want to, if she doesn't come back, that's okay. Nope, I don't think she must have lost her internet. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me and Ruthie on this adventure where we talk about our adventures in Montenegro and painting together, what to do with your unstretched or rolled canvas, how it's quite beautiful. And in a couple weeks, I'm going to be meeting with Barbara and maybe Michaela to talk about my painting adventures in Italy, in Varallo. We actually did 2. Oops, Ruth is back. Let's see if she can get in. Anyways, I'll be talking with Barbara and Michaela about our collaborations in Sacromonte and Varallo. And Ruth is back. Can we hear you?
Yeah, sorry, the internet dropped out. That's
That's
one of
okay. I
the
talked the whole time.
pleasures of being out.
Yes. So we have 5 minutes left. Actually 4 minutes. So, is there anything else you wanted to tell our audience to kind of wrap it up? I kind of wrapped it up. I talked a little bit about chain reaction, how we're just about to make our debut, and how it was kind of your brainchild, and that we gathered these 14 artists that were already part of the International Online Art Collective. So I did talk a little tiny bit about that. So it's your choice whether you want to wrap it up with that or with this.
I think all I would say is really to wrap it up is that all of this is just one great big chain reaction. And if you let it happen, one piece inspires the next, inspires the next, inspires the next. And the big important thing for me is to network, to connect, which is why chain reaction was born out of a deep need to connect. And I discovered a way to connect through art. And that's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. One piece inspires the next and the next and the next, and I can't wait to see what's going to come next.
Yes. And so that being said, we're going to gather together in the United States pretty soon. I don't know. Am I allowed to say the date?
Yes, you are.
November 3rd, upstate New York. um, and so, yeah. And the International Online Art Collective, started off as an online thing, but it's now becoming physical. We're actually meeting each other in person, which I love. So thank you everybody again. I want to hang out with Ruth for my last 4 minutes. So I'm going to sign off here, but in the show notes, you can find out, I'll put a little bit more information about our collaboration and everything else and how to get in touch with Ruth. So goodbye, everybody.